My doll is lost, her skin is all rotted now. The Communion Girl is a Shudder original directed by Victor Garcia, who's done Mirrors 2 as well as a bunch of other movies. This was written by Gillian Clua and Alberto Marini. Check out the respective IMDb pages for the full listing of their work. This stars Carla Campia, who is in Veronica, a movie that was certainly weird. Got a lot of hype, was very, very weird as I recall. She plays Sarah, a girl that really wants to be devoted to her family, but also as a young girl in a new town somewhere in Spain. No goddamn idea where it is. And yes, since it is in Spain, get ready to watch those subtitles. Unless you speak Spanish, then you'll be just fine. That being said, she wants to help raise her sister, even though her sister's kind of at that age where she's asking a lot of questions and being a little bit pushy. Her parents work nights, so she wants to do right by her family. And obviously, since it's called the Communion Girl, there's a heavy Catholic theme. Obviously, why wouldn't there be with a title like that? And she's going to church along with her family. They hear about one particular, situation that happened. A woman's looking for her child. Hint, hint, hint about what could possibly happen. And then basically Sarah and her friend Rebecca, Anya Quinones, my God, they go out and party and have possible debauchery. No goddamn idea, but their ride strands them. They end up riding with Chivo and Pedro. Chivo played by Carlos Ovidio, and Mark Soler plays Pedro. If I mispronounce either of those names, I do apologize. They take a detour through the woods for more fun, but end up finding more than they bargained for in the form of some weird apparitions and also a doll that's wearing a communion dress. And with that doll comes a future that's just dragging them down to hell. And from there, we have a standard urban legend ghost story with jump scares you can feel, see, and hear coming from a mile away, flickering lights, ghost effects that are not very good, and generally a feeling that you've seen this before. And while the acting isn't particularly bad, and I don't think the writing's all that bad, and the directing is fine, the movie feels standard and brief and tries for a third act twist that really everybody can see coming from a mile away. And as far as Shudder originals go, this was certainly one of them. Is it one of the worst things of the year? No, it really isn't. But the problem is all the, oh, here's this scare scene, oh, here's the research scene, oh, here are these characters making these dumb decisions, and oh no, you don't want to do that, because if you do that, maybe if you hadn't taken that doll, none of this would have happened. And we find out why. And the explanation really isn't all that shocking or really all that good, because the story has been told time and time again. And while maybe this movie plays better in Spain and it starts out all right, it descends into cliched malaise basically, and I just ended up waiting like, okay, is something gonna happen? Oh, that's it, that's all we have right there. Oh, okay, that was, and the movie has like a couple halfway violent parts, and really if you're not going to lean into like being a little bit violent, like to offset the fact that you're very cliched, you're going to be running into a problem. And this movie does sputter a lot, and by the time it gets to the explanation, again, you're not really all that surprised. Again, acting's okay, writing's all right, standard, and the directing's all right. So nevertheless, I am going to get into spoilers. It is on Shudder if you want to check it out. The setting is fine, but I don't know. It feels like it falls apart really quickly after a promising opening and a halfway decent setup. Even if you've seen it all before, sometimes you can make the most out of something standard and cliched. Nevertheless, I am going to get into spoilers here in just a few seconds. It's on Shudder if you want to check it out. Shudder is a great horror streaming service. No, not sponsored. I mean, but let's just plug it anyway. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay. So in the beginning, there was rap, as our Lord and Savior Dr. Dre once said. There is a girl that is all panicked. A guy is talking to her, and this girl freaks out, seeing a ghost, has a fork, and stabs herself in the neck with the fork. Okay, so there you go. That's pretty much it. And then 4 years later, we smash cut to Sarah and her family there, and they're Rebecca and Sarah are talking about their plans and everything, and they're talking in church, and that's a big no-no. I've been in Catholic churches before. You don't talk in church in general. You don't talk in Catholic churches, especially the devout kind. Long story that I may tell one day, but basically, Sarah's parents are trying to make ends meet. Woman shows up for looking for her daughter Marisol. You don't go near the ruins that are by the church, because Spain, because of course there would be ruins there for no reason. And then basically Judith, the younger sister of Sarah, she wanted a doll for her communion, not a rosary. Rosaries actually are supposed to protect you. And then Sarah and Rebecca go out and party. There's a guy that ends up leaving them, their ride. He actually factors into the beginning with the girl that stabbed herself in the neck, Sophia. And I had a cat named Sophia. She was a great cat. So then they can't quite remember what the hell's going on. They get into this car with Chivo and Pedro. It turns out actually Rebecca knows them because she was referred to as a runaround girl. I basically could say, even though I don't really think she is. That's just kind of the image and the rumor and innuendo or innuendo that ends up getting spread. She doesn't have the best goddamn relationship with her dad because the father passed away. So they find the doll in the woods. Sarah keeps insisting she saw a ghost. That's a bit of a hint for later. And she has the doll with her. Even though the sister wanted a doll, you would have thought she would have given the sister a doll. But nevertheless, now her and Rebecca have marks on them. The doll is a curse. This is cursed. That is cursed. And then, that whole thing with the mother and mother looking for Marisol gets pushed to the side. By the way, a bit of a spoiler, Marisol was the missing kid, just so you know. The priest plays it off like he doesn't know what the doll is. And then the demon peers in on a young Spanish woman showering. Oh, I see. It's okay when a demon does that. But then when, I do it, I'm asked to leave the country. Moving on. Flickering lights, and then Sarah ends up suddenly in another place drowning in a well. What the hell is going on? She's being drugged down by a little girl in a communion dress. That's all warped because she's dead. The parents think that she's doing drugs. She's actually not. She did come down from those drugs. And Sarah and Rebecca decide to investigate, and they have marks on them because the marks factor in a little bit later. There's a part in an arcade where one of the characters ends up dying. Bubble Bobble was shown. That's a shout right there. I love that game. And then Rebecca actually ends up getting attacked in the phone booth. Excuse me, demon, I'm on the phone here. And we have to warn the guys, is what Sarah was saying. Do you, though? They're both kind of idiot. Well, Pedro's not, but Chivo's kind of a creep. So, yeah, Chivo dies. He got stabbed by a pole trying to race his car away because the ghost was haunting him. And then it turns out that actually the Munoz sisters found her, and that's where Sophia came in, and Sophia died, and various other people died, and everybody dies. So they have to figure out what the hell happened. The guy from the beginning tells the story, because he's a mechanic. He was supposed to be their ride, nevertheless. Well, I can't tell you all that much about this, but I'm not going to look at that doll. They go to the church because the priest actually knows, but the priest is dead. Now, question, I don't know that much about ghosts and demons beyond, of course, shirts like this, but I didn't think demons and ghosts could enter churches. I didn't think they could. I thought it was supposed to be holy ground. Whatever. Maybe because the church was built on old ruins. Maybe the rules don't apply. And then they basically have to find out what the hell is going on with Marisol. Rebecca gets in a fight with her dad, hits him in the face with a vase, ends up getting, we end up having a little bit of a issue here where she stabs her dad because she's being drugged out of the whole thing, but her dad survives, seemingly. Even though he's a dick, he survives. And Pedro and Sarah sneak onto the property to talk to Marisol's mother. The dad doesn't want to talk to them, but they sneak there and get answers out of her. She had a skin condition, hence the marks on her arm. And I don't know what happened to her, but please find her. She disappeared in the square. She disappeared. And then they managed to get to the ruins where they're finding the well, the gate, all that stuff that they were dealing with, because Pedro also got haunted, and Chivo got haunted. A lot of people getting haunted in this. Okay, 4 people specifically, but nevertheless. The goofy special effects for the ghost and the makeup effects, while not the worst I've seen, aren't exactly great. And basically what Marisol's mother said is that no one would touch her. No one would touch her because of remarks and stuff like that. So basically Sarah hugs the corpse and they sink down. And because of that, everything's good. Great, good, okay, they're fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything is not fine. Because Marisol was following someone. Who? She was following she was following the ghost. The ghost that got freed. Now the ghost is free to do what they want any old time. It's like Ouija. You know, when they freed the girl to stop the curse, but the girl was actually doing the cursing. So what? So it's an ancient evil, basically. I assume. I mean, I stopped caring before this, so really doesn't matter. I mean, and I hate to say it, even though there are a couple positives to this, it's very cliche, much in the malaise, and it gets an F. It gets an F. I'm not saying that the director and the writers are bad people. I'm not saying they can't do better projects. I did not care for this. I did not find this scary. I did not find this alarming. I found it mostly boring. It's very, very boring. F. Agree, disagree, what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.